guys ready? All right, going live. Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Clawson Charter Commission meeting, number 15. And we are going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:33 p.m. And if we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the words of inspiration.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We ask blessings on the people who've been called to lead the community in which we live and work and play. Keep in mind, because we all forget from time to time, that we're not only leaders, but also servants, and that it's our responsibility to serve the common good of all. Grant us the wisdom and the courage to know and to do what is right and good and true. May we speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen. May we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and by the spirit of love. This we strive for in the name of all that we hold sacred and holy, all that we hold good and right and true.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call ready.
Zelensky,
Here.
Bolin,
Here.
Dwyer, Hanser Maynard,
Here.
Irwin,
Here.
Marucci, Nasri, O'Neill,
Here.
Parker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, public comment for items on the agenda. And we'll just jump right into new business. We have approving of the minutes from July 27th meeting.
I'll move it.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. And next on the agenda, Brad, you were going to give details on your meeting with the city manager.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, at the request of the commission, I met with 3 city officials on Wednesday, July 27. That would be the city manager, assistant city manager, and city clerk. All 3 of them were generous with their time and happy to help us do the work that we need to do in the best way possible. We went over the list of administrative and support tasks that we looked at the last commission meeting, and we went through it item by item, as I promised. The headline news here is that City Hall committed to give us all the administrative support we need to do our job. All 3 city officials who met with me on July 27 assured me that they will stay ahead of the information and tasks we need as part of our regular routine. This includes handling the distribution of information and public notice for our meetings, recording and reporting those meetings, and any administrative follow-through those meetings require. City Hall committed to be quick and responsive to our needs for information and support. We, of course, need to be mindful of when they may need advance notice. In order to improve City Hall's responsiveness at a time when staff is short, the city manager asked that we communicate our needs and requests to all 3 city officials who met with me. That'd be the city manager, assistant city manager, and city clerk. All 3 of them together will be our point of contact with City Hall going forward. They only ask that they have a single point of contact with this commission, which would be the chair and the vice chair, as has been the case so far. If we do have any problems getting what we need, how and when we need it, the chair and vice chair to notify the city manager and copy the other 2 city officials. Make sure things are done. When it comes to promoting or publicizing the commission, other than regular public meetings, which the city clerk is required by law to notify the public, we are to, if we're doing anything special, then the chair and or vice chair are responsible for letting the 3 city officials know, and then they'll communicate that information out through city calendars and other city media, like social media and the newsletter. I volunteered to write up a quick, a 1-paragraph description of what the Charter Commission does. For the Charter Commission page, you'll notice that the page is now live with our biographies and pictures on it.
Yes, thank you for that.
Assistant City Manager took care of that within 48 hours. City Hall will make sure we get our bills, notice of payment, and reports in a timely manner. They had 2 suggestions for us as a commission to make things work a little bit better. First, they suggested that we include our finances in our meeting packets once a month instead of at every meeting. Financial reports are done on a per month basis usually, and usually 1 month behind, because you have to finish a month in order to do a report on the complete month that just passed. It's pretty standard practice. So there really isn't a need to look at finances at every meeting. Second, the city manager suggested that since our expenses are pre-approved by the city council because they're in the approved budget and are routine for the most part, we add our financial reports and invoices to a consent agenda along with our meeting minutes. This will cut down on the amount of time we spend going over financials in our meetings and free up more time to do what the people elected us to do, which is to revise and upgrade their city charter. And a consent agenda, just so you know, is simply an agenda in which everything is fairly routine and passed in one motion, so long as commissioners read what is in their consent agenda packet ahead of the meeting. If a commissioner has a concern about an item in the consent agenda, they can motion to bring it out of the consent agenda for discussion. So that just means everybody has to pay attention to what's in their meeting packets. Are there any questions?
Well, I can say, when is this supposed to start taking place? That's my first question.
Immediately.
Immediately. Okay.
Well, the first week after the meeting was the election.
Yeah.
So it was kind of all over the place. But
Okay. So I don't mind, this is just me personally, because I've been doing this, going back and forth with the finance reports. Who's doing it? Who's requested, not requested? I like the idea that they are willing to give us this reports. My question is, are we going to have to ask for them every month? Because they know ahead of time that we're going to need them. So,
The answer is no.
okay, excellent. Okay. The only reason we were doing finance reports we were doing it on our agenda for every meeting is because we weren't getting the information. And I would like to also remind everybody that we made a motion to keep track of our invoices and to do that, which we're doing in our shared drive. So that's not going to change. And I still believe we should do that because that keeps us on track. We know what we're spending, and if we do this, then when we do see the reports that they send to us, it'll just be an easy check and balance, and there really shouldn't be too much discussion about it. I agree with that. But that's the one thing I just wanted to ask is, when was it going to start? Because like before the meeting today, I had to ask for the financial reports, and I also had to ask them to put the agenda and the packets onto the website. So, but I understand, you said you guys are...
forgot all about it last Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's okay, and that's kind of what we're trying to do is we don't want to have to continue to... I'm just afraid that if I don't remember to do it, who's going to back me up on requesting it? I don't want to get to the meeting where we're looking for this information, so...
Madam Chair, my understanding is that 2 responses to that. One, we have had a few wrinkles here at the get-go, and the city manager and the city clerk assured me that the financial reports will be a matter of course going forward. So
Okay.
those will be done regularly. Second, the city manager asked that we communicate with all 3 city officials so that nothing falls through the crack. Or if we do have a problem, something doesn't get done,
Okay.
that we notify him as well so that it can get corrected.
All right, and that's what happened today when I noticed it. I did message all 3 of them, and it was done immediately, so I guess that works. Okay.
I just think we should make sure that we're still requesting. I don't mind requesting them if we want to just do our due diligence. I completely understand that they made, they agreed to doing that, and that's fine. But I also know that they'll do the financial reports because they have to do the financial reports, but they could forget to send us the financial reports, and that's something that I'm worried about. And we can wait till the month end and we can keep reviewing each invoice, but I do think that we should make sure that to make sure that we are reaching out just in case they do have other things going on or they do have things that need to be checked or anything else. So I
So
don't
the
mind.
process, yeah, I agree with that. I think, unless anybody else has any other ideas behind that, I think that's what we'll do. But to also make sure that we remember is we all, well, not all of us, I don't remember who it was, but I couldn't go back to the old meeting minutes, but I was going to look them up. There was a meeting where we all voted that we would still look at the invoices and match them. But we also said, I'm not even sure if you were here for that
It
meeting.
doesn't sound familiar,
But we agreed and we voted, we had quorum, it passed. What we said was, and somebody's gonna have to remind me here, but what we said was, the merge media invoices didn't need to come to the meeting to be approved, because those are just going to be consecutive.
And they're fixed.
Right.
Fixed dollar amount every month.
Right, and they're fixed dollar amount. And the only thing that we voted on was that the attorney invoices that we look at as a commission.
that one I remember, that's for sure.
Yeah, so that won't change.
So my only comment is, having a budget, I don't believe having a budget of $20,000 means it's an approved expense. That just means a budget of $20,000. So I believe the city manager is correct. I appreciate seeing the invoices. Every elected body I work for approves invoices at their meetings. I've only worked for councils. This is a very unusual body. But we have a budget, and I think we should look at the invoices. And if we spend time on it, it's because we have a question. And if we approve it in 38 seconds or less, it's because we don't have a question. I personally like what she provided for this meeting. I think that's all we asked. And I checked with my controller at work. It's about 2 minutes worth of work. You just gotta remember to do it.
Yeah,
And I'm not trying to be facetious. I know everyone is busy. You just gotta put it on your calendar so it pops up that you do everything either on the Wednesday or Thursday before the Tuesday meeting. And I know because you and August go back and forth. And I think on Thursday, you finalize and he finalizes. So she needs to know that she needs to get it to August and/or you by Wednesday or Thursday, so that way you look at it and say, let's go, I'm fine with it, August, please include it, let's go on.
and that's only for the last meeting of the
Only
month.
for, I don't believe, like I said, other than because we had glitches, we only want it once a month.
Yeah, we never asked for it every single
I
time.
never remember.
Except for the times that we didn't get it, we were asking for it.
So I think I need to shut up so we can, but I don't agree with the consent agenda.
Okay, why not?
Because, you know what, I've worked with, I created the consent agenda here, okay? That, I don't take any applause, and I came up with the whole policy of it because we were struggling with it. We only have really 2 items of action almost every meeting, the minutes and the bills, and the bills are only in the second meeting. Other than that, we're always discussing, it seems to me. So we're gonna have a consent agenda with 1 item on it, and then on the second meeting of the month, we're gonna have a consent agenda with 2 items on it. And then any of us, and again, as you were told, and it's still, any of us can ask for it to be removed. Let's just move on, let's just deal with these one by one. That's my recommendation, one individual.
Okay. So does anybody want to make a motion for that?
I'd like to hear other people, if they disagree, I'd
What
like
are
to hear.
your thoughts?
No, I mean, I agree with you. Like, the consent agenda makes sense for the city council because they have multiple items
Thank you.
in it, and it's a way to make it a little more streamlined. But yeah, we don't have that much. It just, I mean, it's kind of like 6 of one, half dozen of another. I don't know that it's necessary to change the way we're doing it.
David? Talia?
The easiest.
If you guys want the consent agenda, if you don't want the consent agenda, I don't think that we're not gonna cover whatever we need to cover. currently, so even with the consent agenda, we're still going over our invoices, they're still giving us the financial report. With the consent agenda, we're still gonna cover it, but it just will be at the end of the month. So I guess the real question is, how do you guys want to go over this every time we have a meeting? Do we feel like going over financials is taking up too much time in the meeting? For me, it's just more about time usefulness.
If it's taking too much time, it's because we don't understand. And putting in a consent agenda, we're gonna ask for it to be pulled off anyways, because I have a question on it.
Just adding an extra step.
Right, we're just adding an extra step. If this, I like this information, I think this is all we want, and this meets, it meets my needs. I would vote on this every time if this were included in the packet.
Yeah, I looked at it and it's what we need. It's easy to look at our Excel sheet to match it. And I don't have a problem with that either.
So it sounds like maybe we just keep, we don't even need any motion, because we're gonna keep doing what we've been doing.
That would be my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think, I would not make a motion to do what we've been doing.
You can.
Yeah, you can, but it may not pass.
Well, since it was a suggestion, I didn't know if we
No,
needed to.
Laura, I'm not believing, I'm just saying, we pretty much decided what we're gonna do.
Okay,
Months
it
ago.
was a suggestion, okay.
Well, we
Thank you
can
for the
table the idea.
suggestion, but
I'll say
we'll
we
just
can-
continue.
We can table it too, because we might get further along, there might be additional things that we find out, there might be things that we do
Yeah.
in the next year that requires a different kind of need for.
You can do it, you can always change it.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so, I do have a question for you, August. Do you want me to keep doing the agendas?
I'm sorry, you asked me if I want more work? Yes, I want you to keep doing the
Yeah,
agendas.
okay.
I thought you said yes, I want more work.
I don't
Yes.
mind, I just,
No,
I wasn't sure what you guys talked about.
That,
And so I don't mind doing.
No, I don't do the
I wasn't-
council's agendas.
I wasn't clear on
City
that.
manager does.
I
It
wasn't
wasn't
clear
me, I
on
make
that.
sure everything's formatted right, I put them up, I do that kind of stuff, so.
Okay, cool. All right.
So are we on 7-8? Brent, are you done with your report? I guess Laura, excuse me for stepping, but I don't want to drag, I think in the past I have a big mouth, I don't want to drag.
Sounds like you had a good meeting.
Yes.
Sounds like we have things in place now, and moving forward, we should be good. We're communicating, we know how to do that. Okay. I did notice the website and would like to say thank you for Nick for taking care of that as quickly as he did. All right, and thank you for going to the meeting.
it was fun.
Having the meeting. All right. Current business, we're on A, review year-to-date budget and expenditure reports to match the finance Excel file. I took time to do that today. I looked at the documents that they sent for the finance reports, and I didn't have any questions, except for I didn't see, and I don't think it would have been, we just have to approve the 13497
Invoice?
invoice. The amount due was $75.
I'll move it.
But we're not really paying it because we have a credit.
Yeah, I understand that.
But
Right.
we could approve the invoice.
You can receive it.
Yeah, receive, whatever the term is. I'll
Okay,
move it.
that
So we-
sounds good.
So we get it, that we've done.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, now we'll head to B, continue to read through the charter and law questions for our attorney. I wanted to mention, we had talked about having somebody come for the assessing office, Travis.
Travis, I heard.
Travis,
I heard you
okay.
reached out.
And he couldn't come tonight, but we've asked if he could come the 23rd. Nick said he would, you or Nick, or?
Yeah, we talked about this today.
Okay, so he's gonna go back to Travis and ask him if he can come on the 23rd, and if they say yes, we'll put him on the agenda. And then what we'll do for that meeting is we'll bring them in and talk first. So so that he can,
Is he the guy assigned to us from Oakland County?
So for those who don't understand, but Clawson does not have its own in-house assessing. It's done by Oakland County. Some of the other smaller communities in town do the same thing. So Travis is the guy from Oakland County Equalization who does that. And the word that came to me was, Travis has things to say about the charter. Was how the message came to me, which is good. That's what we want.
Yeah.
We also want to remember to put in a request for charter from DPW. Put a request in writing to ask him to come and talk to us about, we had some questions about DPW stuff. So he's a department head that's available. There's a lot of stuff about DPW in here. So when the time is right, let's not forget to put in that request ahead of time so we can get him to come to the meeting.
Yeah. And when we find out that he's coming to the next meeting, we should make sure we go back and
Absolutely, don't have to be in order. It doesn't-
we'll just
yeah.
identify which sections so we
Sure.
can refresh our minds, because if we talked about it a month and a half ago.
And we want to tell him, read it, so that we can
Yeah, so
tell
you
us your
prepare.
comment versus
Yeah.
just answer questions.
so is there a list of people should we start to create a list that has some of these employees that we want to come and bring to the meetings so that we can,
I think
or
that's a
just
good
do
idea.
it
As
as.
a police.
Yeah, as we go through, like you said, so we don't get behind, instead of having like 6 people at one meeting, as we encounter that section, obviously they gave a good idea. We know 2 weeks from now we're talking X. We should ask that department head or heads.
I got handed a sticky note by a department head. Why are there 3 names on the checks? It should only be 2. Every other city has 2.
That's
Give
pretty,
it to me.
you're right.
It's a charter thing.
He said we'll take it
Put the
to the
sticky
charter.
note, I'm like, I'll just put the sticky note in here, so when we talk about signing checks, I remember to bring it up, so. But that's
Alright.
from
I think that's a good idea.
finance, so.
To schedule these people. So Travis has read our charter, probably quite familiar with our assessing part of it.
The impression I got.
Wonderful.
Can you get a new police chief and talk to that person?
So he'll be here next month, next meeting.
Potentially.
If not, then what about the DPW guy, since we've been talking about it? And we talked about a bunch of stuff at the last meeting.
Yeah, where did we leave off, guys?
We left off at section 10.
Yep.
Streets and sidewalks, which
Yes.
we talked about having Trevor.
Now I'm waiting to see if you come in at the same document I'm looking at right now.
I do it separately, and then I copy and paste the
Okay.
applicable things to the master. I try not to muck up the master without comments. I leave it only questions, so the attorney doesn't need to sign it.
What you're saying is you don't like the way I did it.
I would never say that. I just have a way I like to do it, and it's fine. I'm not the boss of the document.
So section 10.
Is there any, streets and sidewalks are next, is there any benefit delaying this and bringing the DPW director in the night that we talk about this?
Yeah, I can see it both ways. Like, maybe we talk about it while he's here, but maybe it's prudent to go through it now and kind of have our questions ready for him, so we're not just, he's not sitting there while we're reading it.
Got
This
it.
may be beyond just Trevor. Some of this is engineering. Some of this is Giffords, Webster.
I have a question though. Does anybody know why he highlighted pathways? It's in 10.02. I know we're just starting it, but did anybody understand why would he highlights on pathways? Is there like a certain definition?
Parks have pathways that are, they're not considered sidewalks,
Okay.
but it's still something that we maintain.
I didn't know what a pathway
Yeah,
was
that's what it is.
because I thought the sidewalk was a pathway.
Yeah, like probably the middle thing in Clausen Park, whatever, that wouldn't be municipal sidewalk, but it's
The wood
something
chip
that.
trail.
No, like the paved part would probably be a path, well, the wood chip trail's probably a pathway too. this all seems fairly standard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Laura, please call on BT.
Laura, please call on BT.
Yeah. You may talk.
Thank you. I see in section 10.03 that the attorney noted that this subject could be addressed by ordinance, and I believe he is referring to vacating streets. My question is, does he just mean section 10.03, or does he mean to include several sections of, several parts of section 10? You know, if he's saying that vacating streets is better done through ordinance, then would not also establishing and altering grades of streets, alleys, public highways, et cetera, also be an ordinance, better done as an ordinance rather than a charter section?
And I think if you jump to 05 and 06, these are, I believe they're things you typically see in an ordinance.
In an ordinance.
Because if there's a change, because construction methods change, you gotta go back and change the charter, because now there's a new method to build a road or sidewalk or new grades to do it. You're like, you're never gonna change the charter, so you're caught with put in substandard word or ignore the charter and put in the right way. So
I think it should.
that's a good point.
Okay. You got that, Smith.
Do we want to note the specific sections or just say, I just said, did you mean to address only this portion addressed by ordinance, or did you mean the majority of the 10 section? Why not grading, sidewalks, et cetera?
That's exactly.
I think that's a good way to put it. I think probably some of that happens, and I'm jumping with 11 as well. I think, wait, don't you usually find that in August in ordinances about sewer and so forth?
Yeah.
And I know I jumped ahead, but
Vacating streets, naming streets is done by ordinance.
Yep.
There's no mention of honorary street names in here. That's always done, usually an ordinance for the method of doing that, how you get it paid for.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually change the route for mail purposes, but it does for to honor, you know, Penny Loops Lane or whatever. It doesn't change the name of the street, it just puts a strap sign up. That's usually covered in ordinance with streets and sidewalks.
and the same with sidewalk, whether to require people to remove snow and ice and things like that.
That's always an ordinance,
That's
it
always
changes.
right. And
Yeah.
here it's and here it's again.
And it's always touchy too.
Samantha, oh yeah, Samantha, the way you put it, I thought was a good way.
Okay. There's a note
Are you
about
looking
recent
in the-
legal challenges.
Are you, Samantha, are you in the master attorney question doc?
No.
She's not.
Okay, because he already answered, the attorney already answered our, well, he didn't, he made a comment for what we were talking about for section 10.
Oh,
He said,
we put it in our last one.
I tend to concur that most of chapter 10 may be better addressed and more easily updated by ordinance rather than in charter.
Well, there we go. There's our answer. Just saved ourselves $30 by deleting that.
Yeah, like 10-1 is like.
It could've been a slow
that's the
type.
city- The city has control of the streets, that's, 10-1 is like,
Yeah.
that's it. And the rest can be, you know.
So I guess we could ask, are there any parts of 10 that should not be addressed by an ordinance? Or-
Yeah.
We've already passed a 10-8 shrubbery.
Thank you for
Just
that.
passed that.
Thank you, Barbara.
Oh, what did you just pass?
They just did they're constantly amending the trees and shrubs and landscaping stuff by ordinance. All the
For-
time.
Probably for development purposes.
Yeah, and they're gonna do it again, because they're gonna eliminate bamboo and things like that.
Oh,
and stuff.
man.
So, that's stuff.
Taking over a guy's yard, you gotta watch the last city council meeting. This guy has like been battling it for a year. It's a
Where are
bad
the elephants
situation.
gonna go?
We're gonna
No.
And the
All of our
panda?
pandas are screwed.
What are they gonna
bring in panda and then get another invasive species.
This thing goes in places, a polar bear stuck on a nice.
Yeah, he didn't try that. He's just been digging it out. He didn't get a panda. That's smart.
Okay, so so are we in agreement with chapter 10? That we're just gonna
Yeah.
say, are there any
I mean, a lot of it's the
non-ordinance?
Yeah, I'm gonna say a lot of it's more of the responsibility of the city. It's more subject to change. It's not like it won't be there. It just won't be in the charter.
Okay, so we can go on to chapter 11.
Well, but I did want to ask about 10.9 is talking about, he made a note that there's been some recent legal challenges to opposing basically the duty to remove snow and ice on adjacent property. Like I assume it's like if you live in a corner house, you're like responsible for the sidewalk next to you. Is that, I mean, I guess it can still be an ordinance and then it can still be addressed that way.
And that's what judges are for.
Did he say for maintenance, like, well, the sidewalk's bad, or just cleaning, or both? Did he?
He said to maintain public property.
Yeah. Could be both. Cleaning.
But citizens aren't responsible for like maintaining sidewalks anyway.
Say that again?
Citizens aren't responsible for maintaining, I mean, as far as like breakage, like keep it clear of snow and ice, but
I think that goes to that
we
court,
don't.
Yeah.
case, Joe, where they did the reevaluation of joint and several liability.
Oh. Yeah, I wasn't familiar. But unless things at every city I've worked in, Samantha, you're responsible for the condition of the sidewalk, the physical condition.
I thought we all already pay some sort of fee and tax
Here,
to cover.
I agree, this is very,
replacements
Cities do that, yes.
very unusual, but every other place I've worked, it's, you know, someone falls and gets hurt, it's, you're gonna be named and I'm gonna be named, and then we come back to you and say, how come you didn't fix it? But yeah, here we do pay.
You pay that on a water bill.
No, we
Yeah.
pay points, is that, I probably paid 0.75 of a mil.
Something
I saw my
like
tax
that.
bill.
Yeah, so
They
if
did
my
all that after
sidewalk's
they
messed up,
replaced
I don't
all the
have to
sidewalks.
dig it up and report it.
I'm
The city
telling you.
does it.
I have it, yeah.
I had $1,100 for a sidewalk. That's
Okay.
all.
Okay, so we are set for.
I think so, yeah.
For 10.
And it didn't need to be replaced. Crowder came out.
We're just gonna make sure
This is.
that they didn't need something else, or if there's any parts that shouldn't be an ordinance. Sewer system. We're one of those bad communities that has a combined system, and every time it rains, we pollute Macomb County. Not cool.
You're required by the EPA to get rid of the combined sewers. They'll have to be changed.
Once they want to pay for it.
So
everyone will change.
we priced it in Clawson, in East Point, it was $2 billion, just for the sewer.
Separate sewer.
Then you gotta pay for
It's
to
an
put the
unfunded
street
mandate.
back in.
It's been around since like 98 or something, 96 or something. Yeah, separate sewers, but-
No one could
Holt did it, little Holt, Michigan did it.
No one could.
Both sewers?
Do they have, are they by a water? Our problem is we're 15, 20 miles from the water.
No, yeah, I mean, the Red Cedar.
No one could afford to pay, live here. But that's a different issue.
Come on, Joe. I don't want to pay. I like dirty water.
Go ahead, Brad.
In section 11.02, this, you saw what the attorney wrote there. I had heard somewhere recently that Clawson property owners cannot connect their property to the sewer system. Maybe that was just a rumor.
Like if you installed a separate drain or something.
Like if we decided to drain our gutters into the
Yeah.
ground and then run them out to the street and
Right.
connect them to the sewer line at our own expense, section 11.02, have the right to connect the same at their own expense by means of private drains, with the city sewers and drains under such rules and regulations as the council may prescribe. And then the attorney made his comment
Yeah.
about, this should be reevaluated. But that was news to me because I thought that city council already passed an ordinance that you couldn't do that. If they did, it goes against
Sure.
charter language.
Well, you've got ordinances in a lot of cities. You can't have your downspouts going directly into the sewers. You can't do that.
Right.
You can't have it here.
They don't want it in
But
there.
we should find out if there's an ordinance that doesn't allow it. I've not heard that to be the case.
I think that's a DNR thing. They don't want that drainage water, they want as less impervious surface on your yard.
Right.
So that the water will soak into the
Right.
ground and not go into the treatment plant.
Well, it was a conversation with a neighbor who has ponding in their backyard when there's heavy rain. They had asked if they could run their downspouts, dig a drain to the street, run their downspouts into the ground and run it through the sewer line. Another neighbor said, no, can't do that. The city won't let you do it, which is what I wasn't surprised to hear that. So this here in the charter says, oh, but you have a right to attach your property to the city sewer.
We need to find, yeah.
But a
And I
lot-
think, well, that's not what I heard, and I'm bringing it up because we're having a charter discussion here.
Well, a lot of these cities will allow you to bring the drainage from your, if you have a backyard like that. And what they do in order to get the slope is they put a hole in the curb. They punch a hole in the curb so the water will go into the street, and they turn a blind eye to that.
I see. But if we do have an ordinance in Clawson that prohibits connecting your private drainage to the city, your runoff to the city sewer system, but our charter says that you have a right to do that, then that would seem like we have something that needs to be.
I agree, we need to find out.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna talk
and
to
the
Trevor.
attorney was saying, take this out, because,
That would be Giffords Webster, it's probably Mike Smith, and the engineering
Yeah.
guy is more than it
Is
is.
it AEW? Is it AEW?
Is that AEW? Yes.
Giffords
Sorry, that's what
Planning.
it is. Not Giffords, Giffords Planning, AEW, yep.
You know what, I'm gonna go online,
It's
I'm gonna go online and figure, look, I'm just curious to see.
Yeah.
Because I tend to feel you're correct, that there's an ordinance that says don't.
yeah.
You know who called me on the way home last night? Steve Van Roy.
I haven't talked to Steve in a couple of
All right,
months.
so we're gonna try to get Travis from assessing for the next meeting, and then we'll look at DPW and engineering for the one after that. All right, I'm
That
gonna
makes
put that on
sense.
my radar now and see what I can schedule for who,
Perfect.
for which one. Okay, try to get Mike Smith lined up and Trevor and Travis. Okay,
Well, on this 11,
Mike Smith was engineering.
yes.
on 11, quite frankly, we should have AEW take a look at this.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's Mike's.
I mean, it costs some money, but, you know, your water and sewer fund's got money, let them pay for it.
We'll ask him to do it for free.
But they should look at this, because there's ever-changing unfunded mandates and things that are coming out through Eagle. And, I mean, you really have to stay on this, really have to stay on this. And again, they may tell you that you need to put this as an aside outside. You might have something you talk about in here, but everything's done by ordinance.
Yeah, I think that's where it's leading itself.
It's like
Yeah.
10 through 16 almost.
To
It's-
change too much.
Yeah, when you get into public work, yes.
Yeah, you get into public land use and you get stuff like
Oh
that.
my God, with the,
So I'm sorry, I'm projecting us into the future and we're answering questions that the public asks us about why something is in or out of the charter. And, I'm looking at section 11.04 here where the city, says the city, might force somebody to drain their property to the city sewer. Where the explanation is, some things are just better by ordinance rather than the charter, because if, for example, Eagle tells the city you have to do such and such, then and our charter has codified the opposite, now we have an issue where we have to amend our charter, or we have to ignore our charter altogether. So it's better to have the flexibility so that the people, to comply with the state or the people's elected representatives can pass an ordinance that better serves the needs of the community in that particular situation. That's what I hear us talking about in section 10 and section 11.
I think you're spot on.
Yeah, we're trying to future-proof this with the
Right.
changes in climate and stuff, and then you can't predict what would be necessary even 10 years from now.
And this is 1940, so as August has pointed out before, property ownership and water drainage and sanitation were all a lot different
Yeah.
82 years ago.
Can we do, I'll call them two people, even though three, can we do two people in one night? assessing and DPW/engineering in one night?
Probably, like, from our perspective, but I would want to be cognizant of their time, that they're coming in after work, so if one of them's sitting around waiting for the other one to stop talking, like, that's, you know, perhaps an imposition on them.
Well, if you're having the assessor come in Mulligan County, he or she's getting paid.
Okay.
I'll tell you that, because I brought Oakland County in when I came here.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I
And
guess I
they
don't
get
know.
I don't know, what, do
People get
department heads
paid.
get paid here, or is it comp time?
They don't get paid, if they want comp time, they get comp time.
Okay, that's what I
I mean,
mean,
oh, my contract says I do, I don't know about everybody.
that you get comp time or paid?
They get comp time.
Okay,
I don't
chances
know.
are,
Yeah, everyone
you're
else.
treated probably the same as everyone else. So there's sort of an expense.
Okay,
And the engineer, Mike Smith, might, if we ask, might donate his time.
Yeah, I don't know how how the engineering firms treat.
Big bill.
They probably do bill for having to be at council meetings and things like that.
Yeah, big bill.
But this is all,
We gotta have them.
yeah,
gotta have-
well, absolutely, I just wouldn't want to make, you know, Trevor wait for an hour while we talk to Mike Smith, and then, you know.
Smith, I
that's-
understand.
Travis would be together, but
Right.
Travis would be alone, yeah.
Right. I'm just
No, I
saying,
would do them at the same time.
It may just depend on when you're available.
Sure.
well, I think we're looking at someone for, one of the two have to be here at the next meeting, and then the other has to be here at the following, right? That's our schedule.
Ideally.
Right.
That's how we're gonna pose it.
Yeah, well, if one can't, hopefully the other one can, and then we flip-flop them.
Are we still on 11-2? Or have we moved from 11-2?
I think we're just kind of talking about 11 as a whole.
Yeah, because they're,
The specific need.
11-2 and 11-3, we need to figure out if it's, even if it's already been negated with the ordinance already put in place. I don't really see.
I'm gonna look at our ordinance, I'm surely not trying to be the attorney, but at least I can see, hey, there is an ordinance which forbids this, or does allow it.
I don't really see.
I'll do that for the next meeting.
I didn't see really any issue with 11-4. Same thing with 11-5. I didn't see any attorney comments. I didn't have a big issue with those last two. I know if you guys want to look a little bit more at 11-5, I know maybe I'm not rereading it all the way together, but they both seem 11-4 and 11-5. I don't really see too much of an issue with.
My question about section 11.05 is, do we need to have in the charter a section that expressly gives city council the power to contract for these particular services? Or is that implied is that expressed elsewhere, that city council has the power to enter into
I
contracts
would think so.
on behalf of any part of the city? Does my question make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, why is
So
it
sec-
specifically called
right.
out for those specific tasks when it's like that's basically part of
Does,
their job?
yeah, does the charter have to say that the city council can contract for, sewer services?
Right.
Or is that implied in the fact that city council is elected to do contracts across the board for the city? Why do we have to have a special section for that? That's a question for the attorney. It's in there for a
It's
reason.
interesting to, for a period of not to exceed 40 years,
Yeah, it's quite detailed.
can't make a
Yes.
100-year deal.
And this one, there was an amendment 2 years after the charter was adopted, this section was put in. Yeah, this looks almost like an ordinance with the amount of specificity that it has.
This is long before the Great Lakes Water Authority, right?
Yeah.
And it does require 3/5 vote.
Yeah,
Members elected.
Yeah.
Across the,
Which he seems to take that, want to take that out every.
he does, yeah.
Yeah.
He crosses out.
Well, I'm surprised he left
Yep.
3/5 in, because I feel like he's changed it to a majority vote in a couple sections too.
Is it like almost the same thing you have for 12?
12 is interesting, that's just going to stay. Unless you want me to crawl under the table on camera, so, okay. You're asking about 12?
We're just into all that.
I'm waiting for this side of the room to comment on something.
Water supply, next.
We got one source.
Nice and short and sweet.
Even if you built a water treatment plant, you don't have any water.
Yep.
And I don't believe the aquifers that are in Clawson, no, seriously.
I'm not laughing at you.
There's not a lot of places to get it, because I know people that have tried to get it. I had a well in my backyard, still there.
Really?
I guess I'd rather have GLWA water than.
But the law
well
states
water.
that if you have potable water supply, you have to hook to it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is a nice paragraph. Says everything, and then says adopt ordinances.
Yeah, read this and then start adopting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is this an ordinance required for, is it normal, from what you guys have seen, have you guys, do they always pair it with actually stating?
Yeah, something, this is a simple paragraph. It says that you have the authority to create a water system or buy it from someone. It's not unusual.
Okay.
And then all the ordinances follow. And I like this paragraph. It's very simple, 7 or 8 lines. Gives broad authority, and then it's up to the councils afterwards to adopt, the ordinances to implement.
Is it common to have the provision that they can shut off the water for
In the
lack of
charter, not
payment?
so much. It's sure that's usually an
Like,
ordinance.
that seems like something that municipalities would do, but it's probably like a human rights violation. That is kind of not cool, but.
We all do it. We tell people in East Point, all the water, free water's at the Detroit River. Go get as much as you want.
My question is, I don't know this. Does GLWA shut off the water, or does the city shut off? City shuts off water. That's still, so even though we get our water from
I don't think, have we ever
GLWA,
shut off water here in Clawson?
Yeah.
it's the city
Really?
that shuts
When I
off.
was here, we shut people off.
Well, no.
Oh, no, we did not.
If you were
It was
here,
reversed. It was reversed. We did not. We
the
did not
reason it's
shut.
saying that we put it on the tax bill,
Yep.
and you're gonna get paid.
Right.
So why go out there and bother turning the water off?
So I'm sorry to bore you guys, but we actually we took possession of a church on Kelly Road because they didn't pay the water bill. So after 3.5 years, we took possession of a
We'll go get
church
Highland Park, they take.
through reversion. Very strange to do that. But yeah, you're right. I stand corrected. We did not shut people off here, and it's a nice thing. In East Point, we shut people off, and it's very dangerous.
Well, I've had that in other places I've been, and I tell them, you're not shutting off anybody's water. What happens is, or one of the places I was in, the landlords wanted us to be their collection agency for their tenants. And they wanted the water put in the tenant's name. I said, I'm not your bill collector. I'm gonna process this against your property. Oh, what a mess.
I feel like that's come up in council meetings before, what to do, or maybe it's taxes that are in arrears. I'd have to go back and.
They do motion,
Look.
they do move to put delinquent water bills on the tax rolls.
Everything that says
I think it's in May, isn't it, August, that you guys do
Yeah,
it?
it's a couple times, twice a year?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So then what happens?
If you're 6 months in arrears at charter,
Yeah.
it's automatically transferred over. So that's why the treasurer has to go through all this and get all the bills that are over 6 months overdue.
Not paying your taxes kicks in a whole different system.
So people end up paying the water bill, but really not knowing it.
Gotcha.
A lot of people let it go delinquent because they want it on their taxes, they write that off and they shouldn't, but they do. So they're writing their water bill off against their taxes. But now you got 80,000 new people coming, and so they'll find it.
It really is a good thing not to shut people's water off.
Just saying.
Avoid a lot of arguments and yelling and threats.
Private versus
People could
residential
die.
is two different things though too. Nothing
I don't
ever
think
makes
they
a
shut off
Huntington
water
bank
like
pay
that.
its water bill faster than shutting their water off. So, they can do it. Some companies will use that stuff, we've seen that happen
Yeah.
in towns. I've seen that happen. But it becomes protests if you do a residential.
But you're saying, like, realistically speaking, usually if the city was to cut off the water, it would be like very far off, not very common circumstances, and it's usually handled by whatever company that has that will technically shut off the water.
Where I work at right now, in 15, 16, 13, 14, 15, we're probably shutting off 120 people a month. And the problem there was a very unusual circumstance. The water bill was worth more than, because of the recession, the water bill was worth more than the property. So if you didn't shut it down, someone would get a tax bill and say, I'm just leaving. And you then were stuck with a vacant piece of property. Very unusual circumstance, very. But I forgot about it. This place doesn't shut off water, and it really is much cleaner that way.
Yeah.
I don't see crossing with this.
So should that not be in the charter?
So the attorney made no comments on section 12 at all. Commissioner Marucci, you like the paragraph.
I think the paragraph's great.
It's good. It's
Short, sweet.
it's necessary to be in the charter. It's good. The attorney.
I like it
I
because
mean, realistically speaking, people are not getting their water shut off in Clausen. They're
Well,
just
right,
not.
but the charter says that you can, so why is that in
So
there
you-
if that's
you
not
could
what
be-
actually happens?
It would be, I think it'd be like a progressive charter move to put in, do not shut off water or some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Wherever it is fitting. I'm not saying this is a spot or whatever spot it is, but that's something that could be addressed when we get to the part where we're actually making motions to change things and to rewrite it. Keep that in mind and research where you want to put it if that's something you felt like doing.
So it is important to give council the express power to set rates and shut off water. Got it, okay.
So, as an aside, I worked in a city where the resident would call up, say, I want you to disconnect me from the water system and take my meter out. Okay? And when you go take the meter out, shut the water off, the stop on. Okay? Then the next day they come along, put a straight pipe in and go turn the water back on
Yep.
and have free water forever.
Yep.
That's the city of Highland Park. Do you know everybody in southeastern Michigan that's a member of GLEWA pays for the Highland Park water that they won't pay for? It's on your water bill for debt.
There's the Detroit neighborhoods where one guy has the big wrench.
And
Pay
nobody
him to go bring your water back.
Nobody cares. We have $20 million in debt. They're spreading over all the residents of southeastern
Didn't
Michigan.
they just rule that they can't do that though? I thought that just got stopped.
I got the bill, I'm doing the water rate, I got the bill, and there is Highland Park and our Porter Street.
I thought they just.
I think August, I read something today real briefly, but it was just like an excerpt that said that's been resolved. But I never, something like that should be front page
They
news.
may have did that to bring it to a head,
Yeah.
Point of order.
you know?
Point of order.
Okay, are we continuing on to
Yep.
13?
Yep.
Franchises and public utilities.
There's been a lot of change in the franchise business. I mean, I wrote my master's degree in cable TV and franchising, and they changed, this stuff is changing daily. Now, the Public Service Commission takes care of this, and this is something we need to put in your thing about asking the attorney about what the Public Service Commission can do and why we have this, because they supersede
The
us.
state law superseded a lot of this with the cable. It used to be a big deal to get your cable money.
Remember that?
Everyone would, yeah. And now they still pay the city, but they're under no obligation to tell us exactly how many subscribers they have, so you don't really know if they're giving us all the money we're supposed to get.
Yeah. They and the FCC have taken this out of our hands.
And it,
How would they really
well, once you
comment
can start
on
getting all your
it?
cable through your phone, and there was no cables necessary, why are we paying for cables? And
Because I
so
work for one of those
they got it in the
companies.
phone business, the phone people got it in the cable business, and blah, 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 blah. So that's all kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and reading this is pretty funny. It says that franchises are granted when the
Is that
electors
weird?
approve it.
Yes, it's a conflict of
Vote
interest
to allow
for me to
Comcast wires.
pass a law.
Vote to allow WOW.
And it needs a
Vote to allow
three-
Veritech.
We need a 3/5 vote,
Yeah.
you know,
I
not
just
voting on
can't
giving the
weigh in on
franchise to
anything
you
having to do
or
with
to
public
you.
utilities.
Yes,
Yeah.
you just have to let them in.
Yeah, you just have to let them in. I agree.
So, I
It's
can-
so
I can take the
different.
notes, I just can't
So
have an
different.
opinion about it.
Yeah, this really needs a cleanup, because I think a lot of this is gonna say, as governed by the Public Service Commission or the
Yeah.
Federal Cable Commission.
So let me understand what we're talking about. We're talking about public utilities, right? Or
Really, it's probably cable and phone.
yes.
Yeah.
Although gas,
The,
I've never,
Uh,
I guess,
DTE,
never.
they have franchises.
the 2022 world as opposed to the 1940 world is that the state makes the rules for this now.
Yeah.
And we follow the rules.
Yeah, he knows the wording of it, yeah. Like I said, cable, cable, when it shows up at your door, you pretty much gotta say welcome,
Yeah.
regardless of what your ordinance or this says. And renewals are just about the same.
So-
Yeah, they're really done by nothing.
By the nothing, I'm
Because I
sending,
did that, 3 cities where we renewed it.
I send you a letter, says I want to renew.
That's what they did, they sent a letter, we're renewing this.
What is the, does anybody understand the comment, wondering what is reason for the 30-day sunset?
Where are you at?
No ordinance granting a franchise shall be passed until after the expiration of 30 days from the date of its introduction.
Sounds like they're just trying to prevent, like, quick backdoor deals, like, hey, here's a deal, sign it right away.
So the 30-day sunset. My, what's the question I'm looking at? So my question is, what is a city like Clawson responsible for, and what can we govern as it pertains to franchises and public utilities? Because the state has taken over a lot of that.
I gotta tell
What is
you,
left for us?
I think very little, other than maybe opening envelopes and cashing checks. Real, I'm serious, I mean, he would know, but I mean, everything's under your hands now. If the cable company wants to renew, they just send you a letter, you don't have to vote on it, you can be
You
mad
do,
at.
but if you don't, it says if you don't touch this in 30 days, it just gets renewed.
Right, and you better, and you know one thing, if you don't approve it, the renewal, you better have like, that they've killed people installing lines and they charge, it's so elaborate now that you can't just say no one likes your rates. Or we like the other guy better than you, we're gonna let him take over for you. It's so strict now. Maybe for good or for bad, I don't know, but I think maybe he's gotta bring an FCC or a cable guy, because that's really the only franchise. I think one time I may have dealt with a gas one, because it was expiring after 100 years. I don't even remember.
The 30 and 40 years, DTE and consumers were 30 and 40-year franchises. And I haven't been involved in that forever,
Same with me.
but you only do one or two in a lifetime if you're in the same place.
Yeah, and then you imagine saying we're not renewing the DT franchise, get all your stuff and get out of town. And then we just wait for the new guy to come in.
So, just as one last aside, so I don't get a point of order here. Do you know who led the charge to deregulate cable TV? John McCain.
Oh, really?
Yep, John McCain out of Arizona. He led it, and he had control of the Senate, and he totally deregulated cable TV.
It's very different than it was when cable came in
We were making a fortune.
and telling them what to do.
And PEG was getting stuff, public access, and the schools, everybody was getting all good stuff. Good luck with that.
I mean, I guess it's a good they don't charge for cable now, considering everybody uses Wi-Fi for everything.
And then what?
Well, use the cable company's Wi-Fi.
So I think we should leave it to him like we did for 10, like come up with the appropriate paragraph.
All the way down at the bottom, he wrote, public utility, lost it. What's going on here? Public utility, I touched a button and the page jumped way down.
Public utility companies are overseen and regulated by the Michigan Public Services Commission.
Yeah.
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 All right, so we just want to,
I think the only input the council has is when a new guy wants to come in.
so there would still have to be some sort of, you know,
Right.
like I know there was some discussion about putting up some 5G towers, things like that. Now, that would have been negotiated
No,
through companies that already had contracts here, but they did
They
vote on
wanted to
that.
deregulate them completely and let them put them up like telephone poles.
I think they are. If you look around, the 5G are here. And they're here, I think, under the Metro Act because they're in the right of way.
In the right of way.
And we don't have much to say. 5G's here. Look at the new poles. Look at any brand new pole that you see. Look at their top. It looks like it has 4 or 5 speakers all at the top. Those are 5G.
Okay.
I found out by accident. So they were showing up all over the place.
The other part of these franchises, which the Public Service Commission and the federal government has gotten involved in, when you take a look at a telephone pole, it specifies spaces on that pole for each utility, cable, electric, high energy lines, whatever. They're all in the same spot on each pole, and they have whoever owns the poles, if they're Edison or whoever they are, has to let them come in and they pay them something, but they can't tell you can't use my poles.
Okay, so can you sum up, because I'm abstaining from this section, like what exactly we want to say here?
Let me try to say it again. Looking at this section, the question is what, since the FCC and the state are in charge of all this stuff now, what responsibilities or rights fall to the city level?
That's it.
What is it that the city can govern and should govern that needs to be in the charter? That's the question I'd ask the attorney.
Got it.
There's to be a narrow discussion as to, not with us, I'm talking about in the charter, about we control our own rights of way to the degree that we can. There has to be verbiage like that, because it's just, you'll be back for charter amendments and things of that nature.
My guess is going to probably look like 1201 with the water. Very general statement.
Yes,
And
yes.
then we move on.
I think that holds true for the entire section 13. I think it's just, the rest of it's just detailed, but
I agree.
The question I would ask the attorney then, if he were sitting here, is, he highlighted, or I highlighted, I don't remember all of section 13.13. And he made a note, this may be better regulated by ordinance and authorize city administration to approve such permits. If, he has several comments through section 13. If section 13 is something that we think the attorney is going to tell us, you know what, here's what you can do, this is what you don't deal with anymore. I want to ask him, I'm not an attorney, so I think, well, why don't I just put a note at the top of section 13? Here's what I think you can do. Here's everything that needs to go away. But he went through and he commented on several sections. So does he think those sections are important? Is he just trying to be thorough? Does he think some of these sections need to remain?
Well, like he commented on the license fees, like he said he needed to further research the validity of license fees. So, I mean, there are some things that might still fall to a city. Like this says, overseen and regulated by the Public Service Commission, so.
There's got to be charter verbiage out there somewhere that they're, brand new cities are incorporating, especially in Florida, places that are growing, that have charters, that there's boilerplate language, that they're going through the same situations that we're talking about relative to franchises and the like, and how they address it. And these attorneys got vast law libraries, and what's that search engine they've got, Joe?
Oh,
Westlaw.
Westlaw.
Thank you. And they can get that stuff, so it's not like it's real expensive.
Yeah,
but-
that really makes sense. I mean, that would be very easy. You're right. These people are going through this in modern times. Like, what
Right.
are they putting in there?
Right. And that's not for us to try to go on Westlaw to find this stuff.
Oh, yeah, our attorney could do that. in
Because
half an hour.
I believe that we have to have references. There might be a whole appendix to this charter that references stuff, where you don't have all this voluminous stuff within a charter, but in an appendix to it, that when you're looking at franchises, the reason why there's just a note in there is because, and there's, that appendix has notes.
Interesting thing is that the model city charter, which I'm looking at right now, does not have a section about public franchises at all.
Interesting.
That I can find. I just did a search for franchise through the document, and it came up in 3 places, and it's very general stuff.
Yeah, that's what.
We won't get into that now.
And that's a good point, Brad. If you get that model charter, there may be things you can incorporate out of there
Yeah.
and use that, but
It's only got very general stuff about
But I think that's
franchise.
I think that's what we were kind of like pulling in together. A lot of this was like what responsibilities really come to like the city opposed to going to whatever organization's already been there. So whatever we get here, we have like almost 20 bullet points for it. Get 18.
Yeah.
So we might only need 4 of the 18 that we have, just because things have changed, people have been in place, and there's just somebody who's already taking care of it.
That's what I'm saying. I like the model city charter because and our attorney will also give us some more specific guidelines on how to write this when the time comes.
Did we ever share with them the one that we got from Troy?
The charter?
Yeah, didn't we receive one from Troy?
Yeah,
We
I
requested.
downloaded it.
Yeah.
He did?
I did.
I'm sorry, I thought you
Yeah,
did.
you did. And did we ever give that to him?
I thought you sent it to him actually, but that was a while ago. Check.
Okay, I'll ask him.
You know, even though it's probably 5 minutes worth of work, I can get the East Point one real easy, obviously, as well, too. And maybe, you know, he would charge us 5 minutes if that much. But maybe, I guess I'd like to see the Troy one. Can we get a copy of that made for us? No?
I think
I think-
it's in our
It's in the
shared
sheriff,
drive.
okay.
Yeah, I made a folder called reference materials, and the Troy City Charter's in there,
Got it.
our timeline, there's just some other stuff in there. We had contracts, 14.
Mhm.
Anybody have anything else with 13?
It's been a little while since I've read this section. Let's see. It's section 13.17. I'm skipping ahead. I'm sorry. I'm rereading this stuff now. Like, this is just some weird stuff to me. And I'm saying weird stuff because I'm not used to reading charter language, and I know it makes more sense to, like, our city guys over here. But, you know, section 13.17 is talking about general, it sounds like a general election to sell equipment that belong to utilities. It's talking about voters in the town,
Utilities that the city owns.
that the city owns.
Right. I do know that in East Point and Pleasant Ridge, they have provision that if you want to sell city property, you need a vote of the
You
people.
have to go to the people.
Right, it has nothing to do with utilities, it's just, and the concern always there is parkland being sold off.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think in Pleasant Ridge, you said parkland can't be sold.
Yeah.
But it's not an unusual provision that cities they have that it requires a vote of the people to sell
Right.
property. This one, I think, makes it specific to utilities.
Utilities, it
right?
does make it specific to utilities.
Right.
Or it's parks though.
Pardon?
It says to any utility which it now owns or may acquire, or its parks.
Or its
Right.
parks.
See, there it is there, yeah.
That's
Right.
just like-
So we could sell a lot, which isn't used for anything, but it can't sell a park.
Yeah.
And couldn't sell a utility, yeah.
It's interesting that or its parks is just buried in here.
Yeah.
It is, it's very,
Commas.
it doesn't seem like it should be here.
Yeah.
It should be a special provision. Yeah. But parks are always protected because people have a fear.
Special election.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So you need the council majority and vote of the citizens.
I wish parks were pulled out and highlighted better.
That's what I'm saying. So if I'm learning a lot here. If we're talking about utilities that the city owns, how often is the city going to sell utilities?
The only one that any city typically owns is water.
Or electric sometimes,
Yeah, but very unusual.
unusable, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a section that doesn't have much use or value for our practical purposes, except for those three little words that are buried in there, or its parts. See what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you have to go looking for part, you have to do a search on the document just to find it.
Exactly.
Hiding in this section.
And if you're not thorough, you're gonna miss it.
Yeah.
Typically, a lot of the charters that I've seen, parks are spelled out separately.
I agree.
They're spelled out separately, and no insert, and I think so you have to have like a super majority of the people that vote for
Yeah,
it.
Pleasant Ridge, I think, was something like 70 or 75%. They were really protective.
But a lot of things with the parks, and I know this happened here, you had the recreation bond grants back in the 80s, and well, anyway, there were 2 or 3 things that they sold bonds, and they generated millions of dollars, and they granted money to cities, and they let you put play structures, buy property for parks, improve parks. They had 2 caveats. One, you had to put a sign out that said that this park or this improvement was by the recreation bond grant. The second one was a little bit different of a caveat. You have to maintain that piece of equipment, climbing equipment, whatever, until such time as you can prove that it's gotten past its useful life. Okay, that you gotta get rid of it. You can't fix it anymore. Okay? And it has to remain a park forever. Forever. Can never sell it, can't build on it, can't give it away, nothing. It's a park. Because I had that in the city I was in recently. And of course, you got the people want to sell the parks because they can make 55 cents. And so when you start selling your assets, your city's down the tubes. Okay? And I said, well, I asked the recreation director, I said, you guys have these park structures in here. Where'd you get that money from? Oh, we get that off of the grant money back in the 80s and 90s. I said, well, okay. So you can't sell it. You cannot sell it.
It's called the Clean Michigan Initiative, CMI. Right?
Yeah, that was the same. You know, we had a swimming pool that we had to take down up in Emily City. And they were gonna sell the property because it's right on Van Dyke. I said, you got money to put the bathhouse in with the recreation bond money. I said, no, you're not. No, you're not. Which I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
We don't have enough parkland anyway.
Yeah.
We're great here in Claus, get that big thing over there. And you got your pocket parks around. It's good.
Interesting.
And this one does require the 3/5. The supermajority is almost always, I've seen.
Did you find it?
Yeah, it's right in here, down like 4 or 5 lines.
Yeah.
It would be, I think it'd be nice to call the parks out.
I made that notice and possibly call out parks, they're buried in here, should this be in its own section?
Yeah. Legitimately, someone could miss it.
Yeah, we almost
You
did.
know,
That's
what- you know what you might want to think about with the parks? Just throwing something out there. I'm not sure what they've got in here at all. But you can ask for a referendum for a mill to give parks its own money. You have library,
I see what you're saying.
you may levy up to a mill, put that in the charter. That'll go so fast your head will swim. Then you got some money to put into the parks, because the first thing they cut is parks, and the last thing they cut is public safety. And that, there's a reason for that, okay? Hopefully, the parks are not gonna kill you.
Yeah,
But if you have your own millage, now you got something.
interesting.
And then you help the general fund, which funds recreation, you help general fund, they can use that money somewhere else.
Huh.
I sort of like that
That's
idea.
a good thing to know. It's a good thing to know.
I'll weigh things.
Because we did that when I was here at the library, because money was running out. And there's special state law that allows you to go 1 mil for the library with no vote of the people, just the vote of the council.
Right.
And the council did that.
Now, when was that law passed?
Oh, God, years ago. You mean here in Clawson?
No, when,
Oh, geez, those library statutes go way back.
1875
75?
or
Yeah.
80?
Yeah, they go
After
way
the Civil
back.
War.
Yep, they go way back.
Because of discrimination,
Yeah.
they said we would need, nobody would give money for libraries,
Yeah.
money for libraries, okay? Because they wanted to discriminate.
Yeah.
And then they put that in there, and you cannot, because you're using federal money, you cannot discriminate. And that was the whole reason for that. And they had reading rooms, so they could be educated.
Yeah.
That's what it was all about, that's
It
true.
really, it is true about the libraries, it's a way to educate.
And it's great, that's great. Because I've been in cities without that knowledge.
And those are the first two that go, recreation library,
Oh, yeah.
first two.
Oh, yeah.
Get rid of them, jettison them. It's like, it's like a plague, get rid of them.
You wouldn't think so, but when it comes down where the rubber meets the road,
I mean,
you've got
Troy
the boys
almost
with the
got rid of their
badges are standing
library.
in front saying,
Troy,
you know,
We looked at, I remember Troy almost
that
got-
was a really big
that
deal.
was- I forgot.
that library,
You're
that's
absolutely
right.
right, that was a
Yeah.
huge
And
deal.
the Civic Center you were putting up
Yeah.
there. That was a really big. Didn't they run that manager out of there? 'Cause
I can't remember, but
Yeah.
I got it. No, I don't believe anyone moves to a town for the police. They move because of recreation, the schools,
Yeah.
And the
and
library.
throw the library. And once you start suffering there, that's when people say, I'll see you later. I believe. I don't think anyone says they got good police over here, but bad
Backwards
police
town
over
that's
there.
like, no, we don't need a library.
Yeah.
You can get a good ticket over here.
Yeah.
No, seriously, when I make a pitch for taxes, I tell people, everybody in the world pays taxes. Everybody in the southeastern Michigan, we pay with between $100 and $500 on taxes, depending on the size of your house. But the tax rates basically, when they shake out, are all the same. You may not believe that, but they do. Because the higher valued cities have a lower tax rate, but the tax money's the same. They're getting the same money. So what I say to them is, if you don't levy these taxes to improve your services or maintain your services, they're gonna go across the street to Royal Oak or Troy, where they have the services for the same taxes. It's just the way it is. Because now when your services go, your schools go, when your schools are, just close up. Just close up. You're all done.
True.
Like here, we plow our streets here, our service.
It's wonderful.
In East Point, we don't plow residential streets.
At all?
This was the first city I ever got to be in that I saw that people plowed the streets. We didn't have to always salt down the roads. There wasn't a whole bunch of overized things as well. A lot of open buildings. You guys actually close at 10 o'clock. So there's nothing essentially like extra open or anything like that. So-
Every city I've lived in, except, every city I've lived in, we've always plowed the street. East Point, we plow like if it gets 4 or 5 or 6 inches. Otherwise, a normal, we don't even salt them. And I'm like, Jesus, man, how do people get by?
You're on your own, everyone.
Right, hey, good luck to you. Live close to the corner. You know, it's what you want to tell people.
I mean,
But
all
here,
jokes aside,
our
this is true.
services are wonderful. You get up in the morning, the street's plowed and something.
Mm-hmm.
Leaves are picked up.
Tell you a little story real quick. I moved in over in Pear Street, 1985. I moved in June. So I'm going to get the newspaper. We had a pretty good snow thing. I go get my free press off the front page, and the guy's coming down the street. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, a little before 6, and he's plowing my street. The DPW guy always came to my office every morning, and we talked. I said, so you did my street first, huh? He goes, no, I thought you liked to be like your predecessor at Hermoyan. We did his street last. I said, you keep doing my street last. And because we have a 2 to 6 parking prohibition, they can come out and get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Not only is it public safety, it's public service. You know? And then we get the phone calls, they plow my driveway shut. Where do you want me to put it?
Yeah.
We'll just lift it up for you.
I mean, my dad bought a truck when we were living we were living in Detroit on Lake Joe Road, Illinois. And I remember, I think I was like 8, he bought like a white truck, little scoop in the front, and he would plow the whole street, at least around each of the blocks left and right. And he would have us salt down every side street because everybody we lived with on our block were a little bit more on the LA side. So, you know, like, I understand like what you're saying, like, it's not a necessity. No, it's not a necessity for every city. Not everybody feels like it's a need for every citizen to have safe roads. Like, getting out of a cul-de-sac can actually be hard if there's nothing but ice that's been packed down for every person that's driven out or pulled out of their driveway. And then just regular black ice, like you said, hopefully you're by a corner. Hopefully you're not, you know, blocked into your driveway. Hopefully you can get home.
And hopefully you're not encountering anyone.
Yeah, like,
Well, you grew up in Detroit, where I live.
Yeah, not that far from you, a couple blocks away.
Yeah, they had 2 ruts.
2 ruts, baby.
Try to get in there.
So that was 317. What about 318?
Yeah, let's.
This one, so I don't really understand this. Separate accounts required, annual report. This seems like a city manager.
What they're saying, they want to keep the money. You don't commingle the money. If you have more than one utility or whatever. Like we have an enterprise fund, which is the water department. You have a separate account for the water department. You don't put it in with the general fund or the major local street funds.
Gotcha. So we do this.
Yeah, the budgeting,
We follow
the Act 2 requires this. So
Yes,
you're right.
Okay. So this all seems
Allergy.
straightforward to you guys then? The
Yes.
separate accounts required?
And I think it's being done by state law.
Okay. Yeah, I would have thought that, but he didn't note that, so.
Well, what
I
the
mean, I guess
state
'cause it
came along
aligns
and
already.
did is they did the uniform chart of accounts.
Okay.
So that, because your Act 51 money is a major local street fund, and you get gas in your car and your registrations. They will come, they are the only, I think they're the only one that will audit you to make sure you're spending that money properly. So you better have your act together when they come in.
Gotcha.
So, and we do that.
Cool. Madam Chair, do you want to go into section 14, or do we stop there?
I make a
We're
motion.
almost at time.
To,
Adjourn.
Before you do that, I
well,
just.
let's make to finish our agenda.
I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
no,
Oh,
okay.
but what, Joe, what was your question?
Well, good to commissioner comments, and I think that's an appropriate place. If that's maybe where you are. And are you just starting with me, since I'm here?
Sure.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that I be authorized to buy a case of water for use by the Charter Commission and for any members of the public who are attending the meetings, because there's no water in the refrigerator.
I'll tell you, you go get a case of water, I'll pay for it.
We talked about that. I don't think that's extravagant for any of us. And some of you bring your own.
Somebody's gonna look down their nose because they're spending it on. I'll pay for it. You get the water and I'll pay for it.
I'll bring you water for the next meeting. Matter of fact, I'm trying to get here before so I can show
Matter of
you.
fact, just bring 10 bottles and don't leave it in there.
It'll disappear.
Oh, sure it will.
Okay, I will take care of the water. You know what? I'll buy the first case.
I'll buy the second case.
Good, and we'll rotate
they won't
this
say, we
way.
just rotate around it.
We'll rotate this way. Because we didn't get paid, so we'll be in the hole, but for assuming this position.
But no
Got
one,
it. I
no
will-
one.
So
I
there's
withdraw
something
my-
on the table.
Pardon?
Okay, any other commission comments?
Sorry about it.
Commissioner comments? No? Weird, okay. All right, discussion for next agenda items.
We gotta have public comment.
Oh, do you have any public?
Well, actually, I kind of, I can just sit here, right?
Can you just stand up because you speak softly?
So do you guys.
Darn
Just a couple comments, Erin, I'm on the planning commission actually, so I am interested in your conversation actually about the utilities. I know that I'm commenting on things that were on the agenda, I hope you let me slide as I did last time. A couple things on that. I did have a few discussions with people on the,
I'm sorry.
specifically the.
Would you mind coming over? There's one,
Where?
so they can't hear you.
I
Just,
did like, I don't want to block and stand in front
Well,
of
can
you.
You can
come
also,
sit.
yeah, you can also sit in one of the chairs, like over here.
yeah, just come sit
Or
with
next
us.
to Joe, or.
We're a casual meeting, sorry.
So first, can I say, I don't know if you put this somewhere, like what item numbers you guys are going to go over every night. It might be helpful, like when I was looking at the agenda for tonight, I didn't see specifically, and I know that you might only fit, maybe just saying starting on chapter or whatever, it might be helpful because I wasn't sure kind of where we were at and how far you might go. And there might be certain chapters that residents might be interested in, like knowing are coming. Just an observation. But just speaking to the utilities, I know a lot of that you guys, like you said, was outdated. Lately, something has come up, and I'm not an expert by any means, and I know it's still very much in litigation with a lot of states taking kind of control over that in terms of 5G and cities not having the ability to do a lot in terms of regulation. But my question for the attorney might be like, try to keep, and I know this is more so, I suppose, city projecting to the citizens where our responsibility is versus the state, right? We're not beholden to the state on our ordinance, right? Like, we're kind of more beholden to our citizens. But just so that the citizens have a clearer picture of like what can the city do. So in terms of, I'm just going to use the 5G because it's more recent, like the size and what it looks like. The city is able to, from my understanding, kind of give a little bit of scope in utilities in terms of like what it might look like and how tall they're allowed to go or how big they're allowed to get. So I would say being as specific as possible in revamping that would be helpful, and maybe even, I don't know if this is allowed or what, but giving citizens an opportunity to maybe click to the state law on some of these things so that they know where to place their concerns if the city's hands are tied on certain things. It might be helpful, or just to make a note, I don't know. Because it is confusing, right? Like, why is there a 5G in my backyard? I think I saw the same post that maybe you were referencing, that there was some concerns going on in the community about 5Gs, and the city's like, look, we don't have a say where they go or how they go up, but I have read certain ordinances. Again, this is different states, so I'm not sure where Michigan is in terms of litigation, but even being able to test, some citizens are concerned about like radiation coming off of it, but cities being able to test and hold them accountable for how much output those utilities are dispersing. Just some questions and kind of background on things that I've experienced people having questions on. Maybe the attorney is ahead of the litigation, or it's still in works, right? So.
Well, to me, that's why it points to it being an ordinance, because that's much more easily changed than being in the charter where, like obviously 5G was not a concern in 1948 or
right.
any of it, so.
Yeah, well, so hopefully it might be more like a sign ordinance, where now sign ordinances are like, the city can regulate size, look, and whatever, certain items that the city can regulate, and give them an opportunity to kind of see where they can get more information. I think that's the most important part, is because a lot of citizens really come there to kind of see where can I go, what can I do, what is the city responsible for, who's responsible, right? So, just my 2 cents, but.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, we appreciate you coming and being here.
Thank you, Erin.
Erin,
We didn't have a meeting tonight, so I thought I'd swing by here and see you guys.
Appreciate it.
Conflicting.
yeah, that's awesome. Okay,
Is someone making note of that? Do we, I know our minutes aren't very detailed, but August is gone, obviously, so.
Talia usually, did you know?
Okay.
Yeah, they're in our shared drive. Brad did too, but Talia has been doing our notes and we've been.
Right, it's meant for the official record that we had a public comment, like the
okay.
actual speaker. I didn't know if we needed to make note of that for August for our minutes.
I think it's a
I
good
put
thing.
in Erin from the planning commission.
Oh, do
Do
you need more information?
did you get her last name?
Redmond's,
Redmond?
Redmond?
That last name,
REDMO.
address, social security number.
No, not gonna.
Credit card number?
It's like a TV show with the guy with the last name Redmond.
That can go on August's. Take us, oh yeah, right there, okay. All right, so next on the agenda, August had he said he was going to contact, Travis.
He's got
yeah, he's got a bunch of people that he's gonna try to coordinate
Right.
for the next couple meetings.
He said Travis.
We're doing Travis
Mike.
next week and Trevor and
Okay,
Mike.
so Travis, Trevor,
He's got
and
it
Mike.
down there on the bottom of his.
Yeah,
Okay.
if it'll work.
And they'll message us to put that, coordinate with me on what we're gonna put on the agenda when we understand what their schedules are. So, okay. And other than that, the next meeting, we will be doing another financial report because that will be the report for,
The month of July.
right, but we won't do it the meeting after, so that'll be on the next agenda. And I don't have anything else, do you?
We'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
David seconds, and all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
8:05.
8:05. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.